Good evening, everyone. We'll start on page 161. Chapter 8. 20 Years Ago. Connor sat on a blanket with his fiancée next to him. They were in the middle of a pasture on the Irish countryside, on the farming property of a friend of Connor's. Not a soul around for kilometers. Connor had needed to get away. The news he had received this week was enough to mentally exhaust him. They simply watched the clouds for hours, both content to be silent for now. Finally, Kerry was the one to speak. "So I had the shadowing day with the police department." "How'd it go?" "It went well. I think I might want to go into CSI." Connor nodded. "Is that your ultimate goal, or is this an immediate goal?" "I don't know yet. I might want to just get experience with other branches first, just so I know what I really want to do." Understandable. He had been so quiet lately. He was usually the one to start conversation, and she was the one to end it. He could speak for hours without a problem, and she struggled to make small talk. But his silence was to be expected. It wasn't every day that one found out about the death of one's abusive father. When Connor and his mother had left home when he was 10, they had gone to a safe house for battered women and children. They had gotten on their feet, and his mother had gotten a steady job. Connor attended a good school and did very well. Then catastrophe struck again. When he was 13, his mother was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer, for which there was no cure. After a long battle during much of which she was just barely surviving, she succumbed to the disease 3 weeks before the present day. Just earlier this week, Connor had been contacted by the Dublin police force. His father had been found, dead in an alley in downtown Dublin. Kerry's parents had offered to pay for Connor's college education, to allow him to live in their house until he and Kerry earned enough money to live elsewhere. That was already set in stone, but this recent news had just added to the trauma of this year. "So are you going to need help packing up your stuff?" she asked, aware the subject had to be brought up eventually. "Yeah, probably." "I'll do it," she offered, nervous that he might decline. "Okay," he said, still looking at the sky. Then he turned his head and looked into her eyes. "Thank you. The least I could do." He managed a smile and looked back up at the sky. They were silent for what seemed like forever, until finally Kerry spoke. "You asked earlier why I wanted to go into law enforcement, if I could do anything I wanted with my education." He was quiet, but he looked at her. "Well, I didn't give you an answer then. I wasn't really sure myself. But if I can stop one child from being abused, or stop one drug addict from murdering someone, or catch just one serial killer, I'll have saved lives. I think saving lives is something worth dedicating your life to." Connor smiled in admiration and love. They disagreed on many things, but her motives were always pure, and he loved her. He leaned in, gently placing his hand in the back of Kerry's head, and they kissed. Next scene. Present day. Kerry ate a sandwich from the lunch meat and cheese in Kara and Justin's pod as she looked at reports she had brought with her. Even if she wasn't working from the lab, she was working from here at least. She didn't have the heart to tell Justin and Kerry that their bread was stale. Maybe they were both too busy with work to go grocery shopping. The pod only kept things perfectly fresh for a few months at a time. She looked at the time and noted that her mom and dad would not be up yet. The time zone difference made it very early for her parents. But Justin's right. I do owe it to them to tell them, and I've waited too long. She sighed and decided that now was better than never. It was 22:30, meaning it was only 04:30 in Ireland. But her parents wouldn't mind this call. They considered Connor their own son. "Hey, Justin," she called, still hearing the television on in the other room. "Yeah," Justin answered, leaving the family room to enter the study. "I'm going to use your video chat if that's all right," Kerry told him. "Yeah, sure. Do you have an account with this program?" he asked her, pointing to the icon on the screen. "I do," Kerry said with a nod. Connor and she used the program sometimes to talk during the day. "Okay," Justin said. "I'll be in the family room with Kara." "Thanks," Kerry told him. As soon as he left, she logged on. She saw that her parents' screen name wasn't up, but she sent them a message and waited for the alert to go off on their computer and wake one of them up. 2 minutes later, her mother's face appeared on the screen. Kerry quickly switched to video mode so her mom could see her. "Kerry? Kerry, what's wrong, honey?" Amazing. Her mother knew something was wrong before she even said hello. "I think you and Dad should both be here for this, Mom." Her mom looked concerned. Of course, I'll wake him. Seamus? Seamus, get up! Her mother left the screen, and Kerry heard her father in the background. What the hell is going on? Seamus' voice came through loud and clear. Leave me the hell alone! Don't pull down the damn blanket! I'm sleeping! Kerry couldn't help but smile. Her father had never been able to get up quickly, and his familiar, drowsy, incoherent replies were something that reminded her of home. Seamus, please. Something's wrong with Kerry. She's on video. Kerry, do what your mother says, the half-asleep reply came. Seamus, get up! Kerry heard a smack. Ow! Damn it, what's going on? Kerry needs us. Get up, for God's sake. A moment later, Seamus's face came on the screen. Kerry? Kerry, honey, what's happened? The smile disappeared. Connor. He's been taken. What? Oh, God, her mother said, instantly grabbing Seamus's hand. Her father's face contorted into a mixture of distress and intense worry. How? Why? I can't say over chat, Kerry said, attempting to retain her composure. Was he hurt? Do you have any leads? Her father asked anxiously. Yes, and yes, she said. She felt the lump grow in her throat and felt tears form in her eyes. She was letting her guard down in front of her parents. But they were her parents! She should be able to let her guard down. No, Kerry, no. You promised you wouldn't cry, at least until you found him. How badly was he hurt? Her mother managed to ask, the fear on her face very apparent. We know he was... Kerry took a deep breath and turned away as she wiped the tears from her eyes. When she was done, she looked back at her parents and forced herself to say, We know he was shot, and he's got a concussion. Lord knows what else. Oh, God, Seamus whispered. Kerry's mother started to cry silently. I've been taken off the case, Kerry said, because she feared that if she didn't say something, she'd start crying as well. No, you haven't, Seamus said definitively. I don't care what your superiors say, Kerry. You get Connor back. Kerry blinked her eyes and lowered her eyebrows slightly as she collected herself and said with what she hoped sounded like determination, I will. Her parents nodded, and Kerry understood that her mother was quiet because if she spoke, she would start bawling. They both had tears in their eyes. Catch the bastards, Kerry, Seamus finally said, and then, with effort, he managed to add, Either way. Kerry nodded, anger coming into her voice as she stated, There's not a place on earth where they'll be safe. I'll make sure of it. Her parents nodded again. And you be careful, her mother said, her voice cracking. Everything in her eyes told Kerry that they couldn't lose Connor and her. It would just be too much for them. Kerry reached under her shirt and pulled out a little medal on a chain. I still wear it every day, she said, zooming the camera in. I never take it off. The camera revealed the details of the miraculous medal. A picture of the Virgin Mary was engraved in the center, and the words, O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee, barely visible because they were so small. But her parents knew what it was. They had given it to her when she had enrolled in the police academy. And we'll be praying for you, Kathleen told her. We'll make an early trip to church and we'll pray every day here until we hear from you. Kerry nodded gratefully. I'm sure that'll help, she told them sincerely. Get some sleep, honey. You'll need it, her mother ordered. I don't know how much sleep I'll be able to get, but I'll give it a shot. Where are Patrick and Aiden? Her father asked. They're sleeping here at Justin Finch's house. We're all spending the night here. That's good, her mother said with a nod. They don't know, do they? I haven't told them. All I said was he's on an emergency trip, and I don't know when he'll be back. And I don't. The ME says we need to get to him by tomorrow night, Kerry said, again needing to turn away to wipe tears out of her eyes. You will, honey, Seamus said. You'll get to him, and I want to talk to the boy as soon as you do. Her father managed a small smile, attempting to be encouraging. Kerry nodded. I'll put him on video, she said, trying not to sound as shaky as she felt. Go to bed, Kerry. Get some rest, her mother chimed in after a moment. Okay. Love you, Mum, Dad. We love you too. Stay strong. Bye. Kerry's mom turned the link off, and Kerry logged off almost immediately. She needed to get to bed. Her mom was right. She shut down Justin's computer and opened the door. She almost ran right into him because she wasn't looking down, but there stood Patrick, eyes filled with tears, but trying not to cry audibly. He was in his pajamas and bare feet. Is Dad gonna die? He asked his mother. Kerry closed her own eyes to blink away the tears as she pulled him close to her and held him in a tight hug. No, Patrick, she said definitively, ignoring the painful lump in her throat, urging her to let some emotion out. I won't let that happen. I won't. You understand? Patrick nodded, but still cried profusely in Kerry's arms. Kerry saw Justin and Kara walk in at the noise, and Kara looked concerned. I didn't know he was down here, Kerry, she started to say, but Justin shook his head, put his finger to his lips, and held her back and led her back into the family room. This was a private moment for Kerry and her son. The two stayed as they were for a few minutes, Patrick crying into Kerry's shoulder, and releasing what Kerry detected to be fear and anger, but mostly fear. Fear for his father's life that no boy should have to feel. When the crying slowed down, Patrick asked, Why didn't you tell me? Honey, you have to understand, there are certain things I can't tell you yet. You weren't supposed to hear that conversation. You didn't want to scare me? But I'm scared anyway. He knew something was up from the moment they decided to hover when his dad didn't pick him up from school. I know, sweetie, she said, still holding him. And I'm sorry. How much of that conversation did you hear? All of it. I heard you say that Dad was taken, and that someone shot him. I heard Grandma and Grandpa talking. You'll catch them, Mum, right? You said he wouldn't die, but people die from getting shot. Oh, honey, Kerry said, pulling him in closer. He's not going to die, and I will catch them. She looked at him in the eyes. I'm going to make sure they pay. Patrick nodded, almost scared of the anger in his mother's expression, but glad that it would be directed toward the enemy. Then a single question escaped his lips. Why Dad? Kerry didn't know what to tell him, but she decided not to lie to him anymore. He had proven that he was mature enough to handle the truth. It's because I stopped them from doing a very, very bad thing. I can't tell you what, because I'm not supposed to yet. I'd get into trouble. But the important thing is, I stopped them, and now we're working on stopping them from trying again, and they want me to stop working. Patrick nodded. You should be in bed, honey. I'll take you up there. You can't tell your brother, understand? I won't tell him. I won't tell anyone. Thank you, Patrick. She gave him one last hug and whispered, We'll find him. Then she took him by the shoulders and led him back up to bed. Next scene. It was 0400 and Kerry wasn't planning on getting up for another 30 minutes. She could hover to work today. It was an emergency. But at exactly 0400, her cell phone rang from the nightstand, and she rolled over, at first thinking she was in her own home. When no one was on the other side of the bed, however, she instantly remembered the events that had transpired. The phone rang again. Lieutenant O'Malley, she answered quickly, putting it on audio only. Lieutenant, this is Lieutenant Tillman. Have you started work yet? I can be there in 15 minutes. Don't come to the crime lab. I need you in Elm Creek Drive, Elmhurst. I'll send the address to your GPS. What car are you using? Justin drove last night. It's his. I don't remember the number. I'll send it to his car then. What have you got, Tillman? 2 DBs. ID'd as Lorenz and Carlos. Same apartment. Kerry closed her eyes briefly. They got to them before we could. Night shift tracked down their locations, but when we got here, they were dead. But there was something else left here that you're going to want to see. What? I'd rather not say over the phone. I'll see you in 15. Kerry flipped the phone closed and practically leapt out of bed. She put a robe and slippers on and went to Justin's bedroom. She knocked on the door. Justin answered a few seconds later. His yawn interrupted his attempt at a greeting. He smiled. What's up? Get dressed. We're going to a crime scene. We'll read more tomorrow.